Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us. So my name is Courtney Portell. I'm one of the school counselors at Patriot High School. I've worked there. I think this is my 11th year, maybe. And I work with students toward the beginning of the alpha. So right now, this year, my alpha is last name C through FI. Hopefully, we won't have any changes to that. Sometimes it does shift a little bit, but if your student's last name falls within that alpha, then I will be your counselor.
And I am Sarah Carell. I'm another one of the school counselors, and I have the very beginning of the alphabet. So if your last name is A or B, then I'm your school counselor.
All right. So just for tonight, some of the things we're gonna kind of go over with you is just some terminology. There are just some different things that I guess words that we use, terms we use in high school that are different than middle school. So if this is your first time having a high school student, or maybe it's been a little bit of time since you've had a high school student, then we'll go over some of that terminology. And then we'll go over graduation requirements, the academic advising process. So that's coming up soon for our rising ninth grade students. I believe we're going to Marsteller on February 13th, and then within a day or two later, we'll be going to Gainesville Middle School. We did go to Marsteller Middle School today, this morning. I don't know if any of your students told you about that, but Miss Krell and I were there and we presented to the rising ninth grade students, all of them, even those who are not planning to attend Patriot. We just did a general transitioning to high school presentation with them. And then we will also go over just your course options and sequences, and then our specialty programs. And then at the end, there is a list of your student's school counselor. All right, so just some terminology. So we talked to students today at Marsteller about this, but one of the biggest things, one of the most important things we want students to understand what it is right as soon as they enter high school is their transcript. They are starting to build a transcript. Some of your students may be taking a high school credit class right now in 8th grade, so they could be taking Algebra 1. If they're on like a double extended math track, they could potentially be in geometry this year. And then the other high school credited class is a language. So sometimes students may be in like a Spanish 1. So those are earning students a high school credit. We highly recommend that you just kind of be aware of how your student is doing in those classes. We encourage students to, if they have not earned a B or higher in one of those classes, to have that grade expunged from their transcript, which just means it'll pretty much disappear and then it won't impact their GPA. We really don't like to have a student start off their high school transcript with a C or lower, just for a couple of reasons. One, it obviously is going to impact their GPA. And then two, a C or lower is typically showing that maybe they need to retake that class and just gain a better understanding of that information before they move on to the next level. So a student's transcript is going to follow them all throughout high school. We kind of tried to harp with, the difference between middle school and high school. Being in middle school, you can not do well in a class or even fail a class, and you kind of just keep moving along. Whereas in high school, it is a permanent mark on your transcript. If you do fail a class, you're not able to move on. It can impact graduation. Tracking for that progress and things like that. So they will start to build their grade point average. So that is the average of all of their grades divided by the total number of credits. So every grade they earn is given a certain number of points. So the grade point value. And I'll show you a chart in a little bit. So for example, an A is worth 4.0 quality points, a B is worth 3.0 quality points, a C is worth 2.0, and so on. When it gets to advanced AP or dual enrollment classes, those classes are given an extra weight. So an advanced class is given an extra half of a weight. So an A, instead of it being a 4.0, would be a 4.5. And then with the AP and dual enrollment, those are given a full weight. So an A, instead of being a 4.0, is a 5.0. So a lot of times students and parents will ask, well, how did a student have like a 4.3 GPA? And that's typically because they're in those advanced or AP or dual enrollment classes that are earning additional point values. And then verified credits, those are just the SOLs that students need to pass for graduation. So whether they're on an advanced or standard diploma, they do need to pass 5. And a lot of students may get 3 of those 5 SOLs done after their freshman year because they typically are taking an SOL in math, science, and history. And then their English SOLs for reading and writing are in their junior year English class. This is an example of a transcript. So as you can see, this student earned a couple of high school credits in middle school. And then you can just see throughout 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, all of their classes. It typically will note if it's a weighted class. And then obviously you see their final grade and then the credit earned for the course. In the kind of the second column where you see some other credits earned, those are referring to the SOLs, those verified credits. So it also gives you a nice little chart just for the graduation requirements and kind of a summary of what is required for their diploma, what they've completed, and then the work in progress. And then it also shows you the SOLs that are required and completed as well. Students' SAT scores, if they do end up beginning to take an SAT or ACT, which typically students will begin to take their junior year, those are automatically put on the transcript. However, students and parents can opt to have them taken off when the time is right, which is typically in their senior year before they're getting ready to send their transcript to colleges. And so there is a form that parents can sign to have the SAT scores removed from the transcript if you don't want them on there. You can see down in the left-hand corner, you can see the GPA. The student has a 3.89. And then you can also just see a class rank as the county does a percentile. So you can see based on the GPA where the student falls within their class. And just a note again, you can omit a grade that was taken in middle school that was potentially for a high school credit. If your student's in Spanish 1, let's say they got a C, you can have that expunged, and you would do that at the middle school level before your student comes to high school next year. This is the chart I was telling you about that just shows you the breakdown of the grades and the point values. So that first column, those are the point values for just a standard class. So a regular English 9 class, a regular geometry class, for example, those are the point values for those courses. And you can also see the percentages next to them. Some students will say like, well, do I get more points if I have a 98 compared to a 90? And the answer is no. An A is an A. So whether you have a 90 or a 99, it is worth 4.0 quality points in a standard class. And then in that second column, or that middle column, you can see the point value that is designated for an advanced placement or dual enrollment class. We don't have the IB or Cambridge courses at Patriot, but we do offer a lot of AP and dual enrollment classes. Really, for our rising 9th graders, the only AP class that is available to them is a class called AP Computer Science Principles. I think you just have to have completed Algebra 1 for that to potentially take that, but that is really the only AP class available. Most AP classes start in 10th grade and beyond, and then most of our dual enrollment courses will begin in junior year. There can be an exception made potentially if a student is very extended in math for them to take like a dual enrollment pre-calculus class, but that requires special approval through NOVA because typically our sophomores are not 16 years old. And NOVA does require students to be 16, so you'd have to apply for an exception there. The far right column just shows the point values for those half-weighted courses. So those are going to be our advanced courses. So Advanced English 9, Advanced World History 1, Advanced Earth Science courses like that are given an extra half of a weight. Along with the weight being something that is great for those classes, it does also just prepare students if they are looking at taking AP or dual enrollment classes down the road. Those advanced classes are really going to help them better prepare. So sometimes our students get really wrapped up in like the point values, but there is other value to those advanced classes, such as better preparing for the college level courses. So for graduation requirements, the state of Virginia has two diploma types. There is a standard diploma and an advanced diploma. So you can see there, the advanced diploma is a few more credits than the standard. The standard is 22 total credits with 5 verified credits, which are your SOLs. And the advanced is 26 credits with the same amount of SOLs. We do typically just start every student off on an advanced diploma. And really the reason being is because whether you are on an advanced or standard diploma in your freshman year, you're typically taking the same courses. So you're taking your English, you're taking math, you're taking science, you're taking history and PE. Those are all going to be the same. Some students choose to continue with their language or choose to start a language in 9th grade. But even if you don't, you can still earn that advanced diploma by starting the language in 10th grade. So some students want to maybe have a slower transition to high school. They're a little bit nervous and, you know, the rigor of high school. And so they want to just not take a language freshman year and start it in 10th grade. And that is completely fine. And they can still remain on the advanced diploma. So it's typically easier for us to start a student on an advanced diploma, and then later on in high school, we can absolutely have conversations if we feel like it is more appropriate for the student to change to a standard diploma. That is a very easy process. And so we can absolutely have those conversations. It's much harder to, let's say, start a student on a standard and then later on in high school they decide to change to an advanced. Then you're starting to have to catch up with credits and things like that. And just to clarify, because a lot of families sometimes think an advanced diploma means advanced courses. So that is not the case. A student can be on an advanced diploma and never take a single advanced course. It is simply about the number of credits. It's not about the level of courses they're taking. So here's just a more detailed breakdown of the advanced diploma requirements. This can all be found in the Prince William County Schools course catalog. And so you can just see for the advanced diploma, you need 4 years of all 4 core subjects. So you need 4 English, 4 math, 4 science, and 4 history. And then you need to take either 3 years of one language. So you could take Spanish 1, 2, and 3, or you could take 2 years of 2 different languages, which totals 4 years. So you could take Spanish 1 and 2 and American Sign Language 1 and 2. That also fulfills the requirement. 2 years of PE, so they take Health and PE 1 in 9th grade and then Health and PE 2 in 10th grade. That 10th grade PE does include driver's ed. And then Economics and Personal Finance, and then you'll see there just some more detail about the elective credits. Something that students and parents should be aware of is they do need to complete a sequential elective before they graduate. So that's just 2 electives that go together as a sequence. The county typically pairs classes in the same department as sequential electives, and then they also for CTE courses have these career pathways. So it could be like a principles of business and marketing and sports marketing could go together. But that is something that no matter what diploma you're on, you do need a sequential elective. Here's the breakdown of the standard diploma. So the biggest difference is between the math, science, and history departments. So you do only need 3 years technically of math, science, and history. And then same amount of PEs. You do need econ. I'm sorry, my daughter is joining us. So sorry about that. So still need econ and finance, and then also your elective credits. So thank you. All right, so for the academic advising process, so we will be visiting middle schools coming up really soon. So Marsteller is on February 13th, and then we go to Gainesville on February 20th. We will go and meet individually with the students in our alpha, unless for some reason, like one counselor has 10 students and they might need a little bit of help, then another counselor may meet with them, but they're getting, they're getting the same advice and feedback and support no matter who they meet with. But we do try to meet with our students. So we do, when we're meeting with them, look at their recommendations from their 8th grade teachers. We do kind of have a spreadsheet of those recommendations. And then we also have their transcript that has their first semester grades on it. So we look at all of that when helping them select their courses. And then students will bring a yellow copy of their course selections home with them, so you can ask them like, hey, did you meet with your counselor today? And they should have a yellow copy of that. So that yellow copy is how you will make changes if you do want to make changes. You have until June 6th to make changes. I do recommend, however, not waiting that long. There are courses that fill up sometimes pretty quickly. There are electives that are very popular. American Sign Language is very popular. So I recommend trying to get those changes back, I would say by the end of March, to give yourself the best chance at your student getting their first choices. If you want to make a change, just mark it on the yellow form. You can kind of just take a pen, cross off what they don't want, check what they do want, sign it, and then return it to the middle school counselor, and they'll make sure that we get it. This is kind of just an outline of what a 9th grade schedule would look like. So for English, it's regular or advanced English 9. Same thing for history. It's World History 1, regular or advanced. There's a bit of a change with science for 9th graders next year. For the most part, 9th graders are going to go into biology or advanced biology. There is an environmental science class that is going to typically be for students who may need some additional support in science. But the biggest change is we are not putting our 9th grade students in earth science next year. So that will be more of a potentially students taking that in 10th grade. So after biology, they would either move on to earth science or to chemistry. Math, those are all of the different options. So if your student's in like math 8 this year, or pre-algebra, they'll take algebra 1 as a 9th grader. If they're in algebra 1 this year, they will take geometry or advanced geometry. And then for those double extended students, if they're sitting in geometry as an 8th grader, they'll be in algebra 2 or advanced algebra 2. You have the health and PE 9. And then if your student chooses to continue or start a language, Patriot offers Spanish, French, and American Sign Language. Again, American Sign Language is very popular. So if your student selects that as their language, they may not get it as a 9th grader, but then once they become a 10th grader, they will receive priority for that class because they will then have 3 years to complete their 3 years of ASL from their sophomore to senior year. If your student does not choose a language for their freshman year, then they will just choose a different elective, and then that'll mean they'll have 2 spots for electives of their choice. So they're picking 7 total classes. We do ask that they come kind of prepared with what they may want to choose, and then also having some alternate electives that they want to choose. We do end up putting students in their alternates. So sometimes students will come to us and they'll say, well, I didn't actually really want that class. I just thought it was an alternate. And we look at those alternates because sometimes the electives they choose do not fit in their schedule, or they are full and we're not able to accommodate all of the students who request it. And so we do then look at their first and second choices. This is our scheduling form. So just everything I went over, you can see these, all the choices, and then you can see all the elective options. So there are some elective options under English, such as creative writing, journalism, works with our school newspaper. And then most of your electives start where you see business education. So those are all of their choices. Their choices do increase significantly once they get into 10th grade. And then the last thing I will note before Ms. Carell will take over is virtual Prince William. So the reason I wanted to bring this to your attention as parents and guardians of rising ninth graders is mainly for the health and PE. We do have a lot of students who like to take health and PE online for a couple of different reasons. One, there are some students who just despise PE and do not want to take it in person. And so they will just take it online so that they don't have to take it in the building. The second reason is there are students who have a couple of electives that they really, really want to take, and they need to make room in their schedule to do so. Some of our like kids in band or orchestra, those kind of classes also have additional electives that they want to take. So they'll take PE online. The deadline, the registration opens February 10th at 9 a.m. You can just Google virtual Prince William and the link will pop up for you. I also put the link down there. But health and PE 1 and 2 are probably the most popular classes other than our economics and personal finance class. So if you're thinking of having your child do health and PE this summer, I highly recommend you register them. I mean, within that day or so of it opening, because the registration is open, I believe, till April 25th. But if you wait until the middle or end of that registration period to register them, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be full. So just a note on that, the cost is $375 if it's taken during the summer. They do have the option of taking it in the fall or spring during the school year. And when it's taken during the school year, it is free. However, I will note it tends to be a lot for a student who's in a full schedule of 7 classes and then doing an 8th class online for one semester. That PE is it's challenging, I will say. And so sometimes it could just be too much to balance if it is taken during the school year. So that's just something to think about. And you can be on summer vacation and do all of those things and work on the class as long as they have a laptop and internet access. They can do the class from anywhere.
All right, thanks, Ms. Pertel and Chloe. So we are going to talk a little bit about the different levels of classes. I know that Ms. Portal mentioned it earlier, that we have the different levels, but we really want to make sure that families understand when they're signing up for classes, the difference between the standard and advanced AP and DE, because it is very different than what you would see at the middle school. In middle school, students do have the opportunity to take extended classes, so like extended language arts, extended math, and that's kind of pushing you a little further, right, a little quicker. And sometimes that ends up meaning more homework as well for some of those classes. In high school, when we talk about standard versus advanced, those advanced courses that you take as a ninth grader really should be classes that your student is excited to take. If you have a student that hates writing and happens to do okay in extended language arts, but doesn't really want to read or write on their own, advanced English is going to be a challenge because they are going to be required to do things on their own outside of school for those classes. And there's not a lot of wiggle room there. The other thing is just time management. For a lot of our students, they have extracurricular activities. So you also want to be very aware of the just number of advanced classes that your student signs up for. So we can help with that. Teachers can help with that. And obviously we do look at teacher recommendations as well, looking at the different levels. Ms. Portal, there we go. So this goes a little bit more in depth. So advanced courses, so everyone can do standard, right? Let's say English 9. But if you choose to do advanced in some of your academic courses, it's going to extend the standard program in depth and complexity. So it's going to challenge you, it's going to go further, and it's going to be more complicated. Like I mentioned before, strong emphasis on reading and writing, in-depth analysis of material, many more projects and papers, much faster pace, and then it can prepare students to eventually take an advanced placement or a dual enrollment course later on in high school. You don't have to take advanced courses in that subject area to then take an AP or DE class, But again, it does help prepare students for some of those courses later on. Because the advanced courses are more work than the standard courses, the county does recognize that by giving a 0.5 weighted grade point for each of those courses, as long as the student earns a C or higher. So you saw that chart earlier. If a student gets an A in regular English 9, that's a 4.0. If you get an A in advanced English 9, then that's a 4.5. So that is where you start seeing some of the GPAs that are higher than 4.0. That's where that kind of starts. Again, we want to make sure that if you're taking advanced courses, that you feel like you can perform strongly in those courses. There's no point in struggling in an advanced course and not getting a decent grade when you could be excelling in a standard course. So that's where we kind of help students decide, like, is it worth it for me to maybe struggle a little bit in this class and take advanced because I'm really interested in that material? Or is it better for me to take maybe a standard in this subject but advanced in others? And that's where teacher recommendations are really helpful as well, because they see the students in the classroom. All right. And then talking about advanced placement. So some of you here tonight with us may be part of our AP Scholars program next year, because that is one of our specialty programs. And so for students who are doing AP Scholars, you probably know that by the end of your high school career, you should be taking a certain number of AP classes in order to be part of that AP Scholars program. So all of our AP classes count, including like starting with AP Computer Science and some of our other AP electives. Advanced placement is curriculum based on established course requirements that has been approved by College Board. So this is not curriculum that Prince William County Schools put together. This is curriculum that College Board has put together, and the schools across the country use that curriculum for their AP classes. As we mentioned before, AP Computer Science Principles is available to ninth graders, but I would say we have very few ninth graders who choose to take that class. Doesn't mean you can't. It's just, it is a challenging course. And so we want to make sure students are aware it's going to be a big jump for them to take that in ninth grade, but they are welcome to do that. And then with advanced placement courses, there is an advanced placement test at the end of the year. And that test is graded from 1 to 5. And so students who earn AP exam scores of a 3, 4, or 5 may qualify for college credit. A lot depends on that. Obviously, what the student gets on that AP exam, and then where they end up going to college after high school. Depends a lot on if they're going to get college credit for the AP exam course, and then also what kind of college credit. Because for some, it might be like if you're taking an AP English, it might be an English credit. At other colleges, it might be an elective credit. And sometimes that also depends on your major. So it's not a guarantee necessarily, but it is available. And if you are taking an AP class, students are required to sit for that AP exam. So that is part of the class. The AP exam grade is not calculated into the student's classroom grade. So your letter grade for your class is separate, and that'll be the grade that goes on your transcript. The AP exam is required because the county does pay for those test fees for the students, and so it is a requirement for them. But that exam grade is really for the student and for them to use it then going forward for college and things like that. And then you are given that additional weighted grade point as long as you earn a C or above in an AP class. So for instance, instead of a 4.0 for an A, you would get a 5.0 for an A. So that is a pretty big boost to GPAs if you're doing really well in some of the AP classes. All right. Okay, and then we have dual enrollment, which has been gaining in popularity. We have been working with our community college, Northern Virginia Community College, and we have a representative that works with us in helping students get enrolled with DE classes. So this is a way for students to take college credits, college courses at high school. So the way it works is that we have Patriot teachers who are also certified to teach college classes, and they are dual certified, and so they are able to teach those college courses in our building, which is really convenient. So we do have a list of courses that students can choose from. We do look at teacher recommendations. One of the things, if this is something you think your student might be looking towards doing in 11th and 12th grade, then they do want to try to have a 3.0 GPA. That is one of the requirements that NOVA sets. That's not a Prince William County Schools requirement. NOVA requires that. If they don't have a 3.0 GPA, there are a couple of other things we can look at. 3.0 GPA is something to shoot for. They'd be able to handle taking a college level course while they're still in high school. And again, these are college credits that you're earning, and it goes on a NOVA transcript. So it would go on your high school transcript as, say, English 11, but then you would also get credit on a NOVA transcript for your English composition class. And then you can do what you want with your college, whatever your plans may be. And again, those DE classes are going to be full weighted grade. So if you get an A, it's a 5.0 instead of a 4.0 on your GPA, which is really nice.
Miss Corral, you're breaking up occasionally. You're
Depending on the class. DE classes usually do not, depending on the situation, because we have to follow NOVA's grading policies. So just a couple of differences there. DE classes do not have a test at the end like the AP classes do. That is, you're going to get credit for that class as long as you have a C or above. So then we are going to touch on specialty programs. The deadline was February 1st. So hopefully for any of you who are applying for specialty programs next year, you've already submitted that application. Still apply for one next year to go into 10th grade. So that doesn't mean you can never apply for it. There are programs you can join later on as well. So AP Scholars is our academic specialty program. You do not have to be in AP Scholars to take advanced classes and to take AP classes. Those are open to anyone at school at Patriot. But if you're planning to take a lot of AP classes, you may want to consider applying to that. And that is definitely when you can apply for going into your 10th grade year to include that. We also have TV production, which is a 4-year program that we run. We have a TV studio, and students help do morning announcements and podcasts and all kinds of things in that TV studio. So we have a 4-year program for that. Building trades is something that we've had. That's another 4-year program that students can transfer to Patriot for. And that ends up ending with certifications that they can then take into the workforce after graduation. And we also have culinary arts, which is another program that students can take at Patriot. We do have an intro to culinary arts elective as well that's very popular. So if you have a student who might be interested in culinary arts, that's actually for 11th and 12th grade. Then they could sign up for intro to culinary arts for 9th or 10th grade to see if that's something they really want to do. Because culinary arts is 2 classes in 11th grade and 2 classes in 12th grade. So it does take up a good chunk of your schedule. That's what you want to do. Okay. All right, so this just goes a little bit further into AP Scholars. These are kind of our basic requirements for the course. If you know that you applied for AP Scholars and you are accepted in the program, you do have to sign up for 2 or more advanced classes each year. And so we can help with that, and as well as the middle school counselor to kind of help figure out which 2 make the most sense, which 2 sound the best for you. And then in 11th and 12th grade is usually when students take those AP classes, but we do have a good amount of 10th graders that might take some AP classes that year as well. We have an AP history, 2 AP history classes they could take. We do have a new AP English class for 10th graders, and that AP computer science as well. So you can get started on that in 10th for the AP classes. And then because we do offer DE classes, the AP Scholars Program allows you to have either a total of 5 AP classes by the time you graduate, or 4 AP classes plus 1 DE class. So if there is a course you'd rather do DE, then you can do that, and that would still count for your AP Scholars Program. So obviously you have to apply to the program, be accepted, take those 2 courses each year, at least 2, and then maintain a C or above in all of your coursework, so C average. And then there's a couple of other things like community service, and then there's either a portfolio or an AP capstone seminar. And Miss Moore is our coordinator for that, and you all are welcome to reach out to her for any specific questions. Okay, and then TV productions, this just lists the classes that you would take from 9th to 12th grade. Again, you have to apply to the program and have a C average or higher, good attendance and discipline records. Mainly that attendance is because they learn so much, and if you are not there to learn it, then you're going to be behind, because these are very hands-on classes. And it does prepare students to operate all different kinds of machines, recorders, editors, audio, video, all kinds of things that I probably know nothing about. They can do much more than I can, but it's a great class. And the next one is building trades. This is really popular with our students. If you have a student who does not like to sit still and loves to build things, then building trades may be for them. Construction tech is a class that anyone can sign up for, but we give priority to students in the building trades program since they have to take that class. And then you can take building trades 1 and 2, and then there is the opportunity for an internship as senior year, so that you can get out of the building, get real world work experience, and our building trades teacher would help them set up that internship. They have contacts in the community. So this is a really great program for those students that maybe see themselves doing something different than college, or they might be doing that with college, but it gives them some really great real life skills. Next one. And culinary arts. This one is super popular. They like to feed us. They are amazing chefs. And we do have a lot of students from other high schools that come to Patriot for this program. It's considered a transport program, which means that you would still go to your base school, whatever that may be for your academic classes, and then you can come to Patriot just for culinary arts. We're lucky because if you're a Patriot student, your base school classes would be at Patriot, and then you would just go down the hall to culinary arts. So the nutrition and wellness and intro to culinary program classes are optional, so students don't have to do those. But like I said, if you have a student who's interested in potentially doing culinary arts in the 11th and 12th grade, you may want to have them look at the intro to culinary class or nutrition and wellness. Both of those would be good to kind of see what the program is like. And again, we want students to try to have a C average or above to stay in the program. And when you are accepted into culinary arts, they do expect you to be in the program the full 2 years. That is the commitment that you're kind of signing up for that program. All right. And then for transfer specialty programs, as I said, unfortunately, the application closed February 1st, but I think you all had a ton of reminders about making sure you applied for that. And then the program is open to a limited number of rising 9th through 11th graders. So we just want to make sure that anyone who has questions about the transfer specialty programs to please reach out either to your base school if it's not Patriot, or to us, and we're happy to help you through that. And then once decisions are made later towards the end of February, if we need to go back and schedule students who maybe Patriot isn't their base school, we would take care of that as well. All right. And then this was the transport program that I talked about, culinary arts. So you would stay at your base school and only come to Patriot for culinary arts. But if Patriot is your base school, then you don't have to worry about it because you'd be at Patriot anyways. And it is by block. because of the way that our scheduling is. All right, and then this last slide is just showing our alphas for this year. We don't anticipate any major changes for next year. And we definitely encourage our 8th grade families to reach out to us if you have scheduling questions. We know that the middle school counselors have to deal with all the high school specialty programs and all the different things that they have to worry about. And, they don't necessarily know every single detail about the high school classes, and they shouldn't have to. So feel free to email us or give us a call, and do it by your student's last name. That way we get to know you, you get to know us. We can start working with you and your student before they even step through Patriot's door. So we welcome questions, and we want to try to make sure that your students are in the appropriate classes and what they are really wanting to take. All right, so I think there are some questions. This side here. Ms. Bertel, is it okay if I just kind of go through and answer them?
Yeah.
Straight from the top? Okay. So first one is, okay. So a question is if a freshman can take Spanish 3 if they've already completed 1 and 2. And we've had that before. They might be at Pennington or another school, but there are a couple of schools in the county and elsewhere that offer 2 years of a language in middle school. That is perfectly fine. We will place them in the very next level of a language. The nice thing about high school is that we do not schedule based on grade. It is based on courses. So your 9th grader, if they're taking Spanish 3, could very well be in a classroom with 11th and 12th graders, which is fine. But that is something that we aren't limited to at the high school, whereas I know at the middle school level, it's a lot harder to do that because they are scheduled by grade. So like all the 7th graders have these classes together, and all the 8th graders. So in high school, we don't have to worry about that. Same thing with math. If you have a student who's extended in math and 2 years ahead, we will happily place them in the appropriate level of math. We want to keep challenging students. All right. Okay, and then asking about, will the slide deck be available? Yes, we are going to post the PowerPoint presentation from tonight and the recording on Patriot's website. I'm not exactly sure where, but it will be on there. And then after we meet with all of our rising 9th graders, so after we meet at Marsteller and then we go to Gainesville, we will be inviting all of the students to our Canvas page. So it will be their class page on Canvas, and we will also be putting this information on there. So if the students have questions, they can go on there as well. And if you're one of the, if you're like a parent that is able to go in and see everything that your student sees in Canvas, you'll be able to see that page as well. So we'll have it on our website, and there'll be a special Canvas page for our rising freshmen to be able to see this. Difference between virtual Virginia and virtual Prince William. That is a great question. So virtual Prince William is obviously just for Prince William County school students. I'm pretty sure, Ms. Portel. I think you can be out of county and do Prince William County, but it's not free, and you pay a little bit more money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's geared towards Prince William County schools students. Virtual Virginia is for the whole state. And so students register for virtual Virginia classes through their high school. I will say we don't have as many students doing virtual Virginia because we have virtual Prince William. It's easier, they're free, and the virtual Virginia class, or free for fall and spring semester at least. For virtual Virginia, it is it's just different, and it is sometimes where you're more often having to pay for the class than a virtual Prince William class. Ms. Portel, does that sound accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, our students only take virtual Virginia if the class is not offered through virtual Prince William, or if there's a conflict in their schedule and they really want AP statistics, they could take that through virtual Virginia. But usually the priority is, or what is taken first, is virtual Prince William, and then virtual Virginia is
offered as a secondary option. Yep. And then next question is, why is earth science not being offered to ninth graders? So that's a great question, especially if you have older children who have been through this already and you're thinking, well, they took earth science in ninth grade and they did fine. The main reason is that we are being required, I believe it's a federal thing, where all students have to take the biology SOL. So that is something that all students must take in high school. That's one of the things that high schools use for accreditation. And so if all students are having to take it and having to take that SOL, we didn't want them to also have to do the earth science SOL on top of that. So when we make biology the ninth grade course, which many students have been taking for ninth grade forever, that's always been an option. If you take the biology in ninth grade, you'll have that SOL. And then if students need to pass an SOL still, they'll still have that opportunity to take an SOL in earth science or chemistry. So that is something that Prince William County Schools has decided to do to make sure that we're as uniform as possible with that. Some of the high schools have already been doing that. Patriots decided to do it this coming year. The next one, if our student wants to take the online health and PE during the year, that allows them to do electives. Can they go up a level to do multiple chorus or band or orchestra? So that is a great question for our chorus, band, and orchestra directors. We have had plenty of musicians who have done multiple music classes. So yes, it is an option. As to which ones would be available or which ones would be appropriate, I would highly encourage you to reach out to our band or orchestra directors or choir teacher, and then they can help. I believe they usually offer auditions in the spring for our rising ninth graders. You could also talk to their current middle school music teachers because they work really closely with the high school music teachers to help place students. So you could reach out to either one to see like when those auditions might be and what that would look like, what those other classes would be. I will say as well that if we know a student wants to do multiple music classes, we can mark what we think it's going to be. And then the music teachers will give us lists later in the spring after auditions to help clarify and correct any placement or level changes. So the music classes are pretty flexible because it depends on ability and being able to audition and things like that. Right. Is there a limit to how many advanced courses that can be taken each year? My child's teacher have all recommended advanced and we're having a hard time choosing. That is a common thing that we see in a lot of our students who are just really good students, right? Like they go to class, they do what they're supposed to do. They are rocking it and the teachers see that and so they recommend them for advanced. This is when it's helpful to kind of look a couple years ahead and see, like, if I don't do advanced in this subject area, does that keep me from maybe doing advanced later on? There's something else. Most of the time, that's a no. So, like, if you take advanced English in ninth grade, you could take regular English in 10th grade and take AP English in 11th grade. So usually that's not the case. However, I will say some classes build more on each other than others. And the English and the math are going to build more on each other. The English skills that you learn in advanced English are then going to prepare you for that advanced English 10 or AP English seminar class. For the math, you can, if you are going into, let's say, advanced geometry next year, which is probably one of our tougher advanced classes for ninth graders, you're on track to take calculus as a senior. But I will tell you, whether you take regular or advanced geometry, you're still on track to take calculus as a senior. So those are the things that you kind of want to look at. And if you have questions about that, then we can definitely help with that. Because that might be something that the middle school counselor may not be as familiar with because they don't see them after going to ninth grade. Whereas we can kind of help show you what that looks like for the next couple years. So I would also say choose the classes that you think your student is going to really enjoy. Just because they're getting recommended for advanced geometry doesn't mean they have to do advanced geometry, right? If they really don't like math, they could do regular geometry and do just fine. But think about what they've talked about, what they enjoy. I know it's early, but if they've mentioned something like a career path later on or a college major, those are things that can help guide you too. And there is no limit to the number of advanced classes you can take. You just want to be careful not to overload your student. I would say we have not very many students that take all of the advanced classes in ninth grade. It is rare. Ms. Portel, would you agree with that? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have another question. All right. So yes, so a lot of the Prince William County high schools have JROTC, and you have a student that would like to transfer to Battlefield to participate in the program. Is there a specific reason this program is not offered at Patriot? Not that I'm aware of. We've just never had it. I do not know the rhyme or reason for it. But yeah, we do not offer that. And so if you do have a student that would like to do JROTC, which is a wonderful program, at a lot of our high schools, it would be a transfer program you would have to transfer for. All right. And then
This question, Ms. Crowell, was I think initially about criminal justice, and I think you may have answered it. I didn't hear your answer, but maybe you mentioned another class.
Didn't talk about criminal justice. Was it something else?
We don't, I believe this was the one who mentioned criminal justice and your student being interested in that. We don't offer that class at Patriot. We actually had a young lady ask about that as well. And the one class that was mentioned was we do offer an intro to law class, which is not exactly criminal justice, but it's probably the most similar class we do offer. And that's available to 11th and 12th grade students. It is taught by a teacher who did practice law. Her name is Miss Warren. And so she has a lot of knowledge and expertise in that area. We also offer, again, not exactly the same as criminal justice. We do offer, if your student has any interest in more of like the forensic side of it, we do offer a Chem 2 forensics class that's available for 11th and 12th graders.
All right. And then one more question about explaining the math one again. Was that where I was just talking about with the geometry maybe? So for instance, if you, because I think a good number of our rising ninth graders will take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and so they're going to geometry in 9th grade. And so for us in Prince William County schools, whether or not you take regular or advanced geometry, you then will go to Algebra 2 the year after that, as long as you did well in geometry. And then you can go to pre-calculus in 11th grade, whether it's, you know, AP or DE, it's pre-calculus. And then you would go to calculus senior year. So for a lot of our advanced classes, it's not necessarily a requirement to take this class advanced in order to then get to this AP or DE class in 12th grade or 11th grade. So I think that was what I was talking about with the math one, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But each person, each student is so individualized with their different paths that if you do have questions, that's when I strongly encourage you to reach out to one of us or to talk to the middle school counselor so that we can kind of help you with that because it is a very individualized answer that you might need. This is a great question. Is there a path for a student to go to calculus senior year if they do Algebra 1 freshman year? So that is when Virtual Prince William is awesome. And so if a student is in Algebra 1 as a freshman, they could end up doing geometry in summer, Virtual Prince William. Unfortunately, it's not free then, but you could, and then do Algebra 2 the following year. You could also do something in, like you could do Algebra 1 right now, and then you could do geometry in Virtual Prince William in the spring, like this time next year. so that you would get algebra and geometry in the same year. So what's going to end up happening is you're almost doubling up on a math to then kind of get to where you want to be by your senior year. So yes, there is a way to do that. We just want to be careful that the student is ready to take that next step, because calculus is hard and pre-calculus is hard. And so we want to make sure that the students will be successful there as well. And that's when those math teacher recommendations are really helpful too. All right, so someone question, can I skip algebra? Do I have to take algebra 1 if I'm in pre-algebra? Yes, you have to take algebra 1. Yep, you cannot skip algebra 1. And I will say algebra 1 is in my opinion, the most important math class you're going to take for high school classes. The reason is because it is the building block for any other math class you take in high school. Geometry is a little bit different for those parents that are out there. You might remember geometry just being a little different than the other math classes, and it still kind of is. So geometry is one that if you're going to do something in the summer or if you're trying to get ahead, geometry is the one that we would maybe recommend you do. And do the algebra 1 in the building, do algebra 2 in the building, because those are really going to help prepare you for those upper level math classes. All right. So another question, can you confirm the Algebra 2 trig is equivalent to Advanced Algebra 2? Yes. So if you are going into Algebra 2 for next year or in 10th grade, and you want trig with it, you need to take Advanced Algebra 2. That is going to give you the trig as well. We also offer a class called Algebra 3 trig. And so for some of our students who end up doing regular Algebra 2, they can then do algebra 3 trig after that if they want. So we have a couple of different ways to go. But yeah, awesome questions. Thank you all. All right, so I think we answered everything. So we really appreciate you all joining us tonight. Thank you for those of you who've gone on to the end. Again, we did record this, so we will just put this out as soon as we can, hopefully by the end of the week on our website. If you have neighbors and friends that are saying, oh, I wish I had listened or joined, please share with them that this will be available for them to listen to when they have a chance. And we appreciate you all joining us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.